to have a layover in Minneapolis.
Oh, no, well, that may not be. It was really complicated to get here from France. I had to go from Albi to Paris, then from Paris to Saint Martin. Then Saint Martin was supposed to go to Antigua and then La Dominique. When it got to Antigua, there was a storm. It had to go back to Saint Martin. We waited an extra hour and got there finally in the Dominique at no time. It was quite an adventure.
Great. Well, glad you could make it. You made it last time too. You might be one of our regulars.
Well, I hope so. So I got a cooker with me. Today I was at the tourist office and I gave a car to the lady and we decided to meet again on Monday. I will bring the cooker to her and hopefully she gives me leads to important people on the island, see if I can show anyone something.
Sure. Sounds good. Well,
Okay.
going around the screen here, I see Roger. Roger Haynes is next. If you want to, oh, caught you in mid-chew. I'm sorry. I'll go. I can go to Sharon and then go back
Hi.
to you. Yeah, we'll do Sharon and then come back to Roger.
Hi, I'm Sharon. Of course, I make the Copenhagen and I'm pretty active on the Solar Cookers World Network. So it's nice to see the faces of the people I talk to. And I've been getting information. The University of Malaga in Spain. A couple of researchers went through my Copenhagen and helped me find the perfect spots for putting the snaps on so that it will get the maximized. Like one location made it almost 100% more than what my snaps were. I'm now having to or have my husband make a punch that will do the holes because he had a punch for the old ones, but he had to take it all apart and it's a pneumatic punch. So it'll have like holes that it'll punch on the corners. And so I have been out of production for, about 3 years now because I had 23 was my year of operations and then 24 recovering. So now 25, I want to get out there and start joining the world with my solar cooker again.
Wow, sounds fantastic. It always helps to have another couple pairs of eyes and ears and to run ideas by. That's great. Okay, Roger, are you ready? And you're muted still. There we go.
Sure, sure. What? I'm Roger Haynes, Haynes Solar Cookers, as it says right there. Um, I share San Diego with Sharon Clausen and Jim
Mhm.
Joy. What can I tell you about the cooker? We're selling them online, trying to get them into refugee camps. Um, we have a new one called a pop open cooker that pops open and does not use snaps because those snaps eventually fail, it seems. And it's hard to go back to people and say, okay, let's send you a snap and you can put it in because of course you can't.
Yeah.
So always looking for something that is more durable, more long lasting, and I think the pop open is a good one for us. But the Hanes 2 is still very popular. I'm selling both online and everybody buys the Hanes 2. They just don't understand why they would buy anything but that because it's rated a little bit higher in terms of performance by Solar Cookers International. So it's an uphill battle to get people to buy something that's more durable. They want power. I think Elaine mentioned this as well, that the point is, how do you get more power out of your cooker? So,
But
any,
I know plenty of people who have referred your cooker to or have gotten them your cookers, and they tend to just leave them snapped in place for their season. You know, May to September for the summertime, and the lower setting for the rest. And they keep it on top of the refrigerator. Often it just fits right on top of the refrigerator or top of a cabinet, and so they just figure why fuss? Just set it out and you're cooking. So. I think that's the case with most of your cookers. I know mine. When I set them out, I forget them and I don't worry about them because just about everyone I see on the screen here if I have your cooker, they last Alon's, the SunPlicity, that's taken about 10 tumbles off of snowbanks because I use it in the winter so much. Just last night we had a good wind blow it from one snowbank to the other. So anyway, built to last. Okay, next up I see no, I see Fornelia, and I know you responded before. Yeah. You know,
Hello, everyone.
hello.
My name is Savas. Fornelia is producing and selling solar ovens over a decade ago, but I am dealing with solar cooker since '83, so 40 years, maybe more. We have two main models. One called Fornelia Mini Open. It's a foldable, like a suitcase model. You have one, I think, that was our first model, the Fornelia Mini, using a vacuum tube. Now we don't use vacuum tube. We build our tubes just with air gap, and it works perfectly. So we can choose the dimensions of the cylinder inside, outside, and the length. And the next model is a very big one. It's not portable, it's fixed. It's suitable for restaurants. Our partners in France, Solar Brother, they sell in restaurants and even in Michelin restaurants, étoilés, as they call it. And we are developing now another model for our friends in Senegal, in Africa, to adapt to their culture. So we built a satellite dish that we cover with mirrors cut in shapes that they do not produce any astigmatism. So the focal is a plane right on the spot, on the pot. And you can use there with a pressure cooker of 10 liters, that it's more than enough for a big family. And it cooks very quickly. Also, when I was in Senegal, we found out that they need dryers for fish because they do a lot of dry fish in the sun with not very healthy conditions, if I can say. So we are developing an air dryer for fish, also using the parabolic always draft. And of course, research and development continues. Our only problem, if I can say, is not the marketing, is the funding. We don't have the means to fund in big orders of raw materials so that we can lower the price, and also to buy some machines that will help us in the production. So if you know anybody who wants to invest in this technology, we would like to discuss the terms. And the market is, huge. It's enormous. It's unbelievable. The only thing, and I have to say, our solar cookers, they last. We have clients, although we start Fornelia 10 years ago, we have clients that they have it for 20 years and they're still using it. So it's not a very cheap product, but it's durable and it's affordable. Okay, we can discuss if you have any questions later. Thank you for listening.
Sure.
Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
logging in. And that reminds me, for all of you here, put your websites in the chat to share with everyone, so everyone can take a look at what you have to offer, even if you're not the makers, but you're distributing. That's the important partnership that we're trying to develop with these forums, make more of these connections. So thanks so much. Next on my screen, I have Paul Hedrick. He's with Solar Cookers International, and And I don't know if you or Tom Sponheim said, well, we're not really a manufacturer, but SCI off and on has distributed the cook at least. And so you're part of the team. Anyway, Paul, welcome.
Hello. It's certainly nice to see some faces and connect directly with a number of the people that I have connected with virtually, with either through Facebook accounts or emails. So that's great. Yeah, quickly, I am an actual part-time employee for Solar Cookers International, and I am now the administrator and the primary editor of the Solar Cooking Wiki. And most people here, I'm sure, are familiar with it. And I think we have articles on, I think, all of the cookers that people here represent. I've been working with SCI probably since 2010. And I was introduced through Tom Sponheim, who still has some input on the wiki, not as much as before. It's as we know, it is sort of, I guess, the big dog, the primary resource of information for solar cooking information. And I'm because, Solar Cookers International does not make any solar cookers. And the latest word, as of just a couple of days ago, they've continued or begun to continue distributing the Cook It only because there's about 100 in the warehouse, and once those are gone, they're gone. So this is not a long-term effort. I mean, for SCI, it was determined that it was just too much work, bookkeeping and the like, to handle distributing solar cookers. So that's the latest on when the 100 Cook-Its are gone, they're gone. But in my opinion, I mean, it's wonderful to see the evolution of panel solar cookers beyond the Cook It, and in particular, the Haines cookers and the Copenhagen cookers are two prime examples. So, I'm here today primarily to listen, to hear, the trials and tribulations of distributors and manufacturers, what they've gone through. I am aware of some of the issues with customs and trying to bring in materials into various countries. So I'll be here to listen.
Great, thanks, Paul. And I just put in my plug. I think I plugged it with Caitlin a couple of years back when the Cook It was not on the site, and all of a sudden it showed up again. But I think of it as your calling card, as SCI's calling card. I mean, this is a historical totem, and just my own 2 cents. You do what you need to do, and yes, I think definitely the evolution. In fact, for an online class that Sharon and a couple others of you are helping out with, I'm putting together a series of pictures with the animated outlines of panel cookers going back to the Cook It all the way up through the Copenhagen and Haines and Jim LaJoy's all season, just to show how as the years progress, everyone figures, okay, here's a tweak, here's a overhaul, and we're ending up with better products. So, but anyway, just a thought. Swag, every organization has some swag. Well, next on my screen, I see Janie, who I've only probably visited 4 or 5 times down in Lubbock, and a couple of Zoom calls, and so yeah.
So my name is Janie McNutt, and I worked with Sam Irwin with the Solar Chef since 1998. And when he passed away in 2019, then he delegated to me, he left to me all of his prototypes, everything for the oven, which we manufactured in Lubbock in 2000 and 2001 during the Y2K. And after that, then there was not much of a demand, and I had to go back to teaching. But which I love, which I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. But then when he passed away, I went to his home in Tracyton, Washington, and boxed up everything that he had in his garage, everything, and sent it back by a truck to Lubbock. And so I have all of that in my warehouse because my main job right now is I have a solar energy. I put solar on homes and residential, but I also distribute. I land SunPlicity in the United States. I just sent one to Wisconsin, which is arriving today, and she's thrilled. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah, and if you go back to my channel, you'll see my visit with Janie, and the first probably 2/3 are about Sam Irwin's The Solar Chef and the Starflower. But then the last portion is on the Simplicity. And I
Right.
remember Janie cooked us a rice meal there while I was there in Lubbock at her office. So,
I cook
no,
all the time with the Simplicity in front of my office, and
yes.
I put a cone out and make sure nobody drives in that space, and I've got my Simplicity going, and I love it.
That's the hazards.
Yeah.
Well, next on my screen, I see Mike. Oh, you're still muted.
There, how's that?
Good, very good.
There.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Mike Mikowski. A friend of mine, Olaf, and I have stepped in where Mike and Martha port with their solar ovens. So we are excited. We're almost ready to put them online to sell. We are right now finishing up getting enough of the products made and delivered to our shop to be able to build them. So it's been a couple years now. Actually, as we were just talking about this, I was just talking about this with Mike and Martha Port yesterday, that we've already been helping for the last 2 years, which is crazy, but it was funding that was keeping us from moving forward also. And we actually got someone to fund us for 250 ovens. And so, yeah, so we'll be producing them within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll be starting to build and start to be able to sell them. It's the dual sport oven, the one that, Mike and Martha have, the one that holds 2 pots. That's one that we're going to be putting into production. But yeah, and so I was just excited to, meet you guys. I'm new to the crew, I guess. And we're just excited to really move Mike and Martha's vision and mission forward, helping the deforested areas. So we just talked a little bit yesterday actually about when we want to plan our first mission trip and where, and to bring these ovens to places that can't cook food without them. So, it's exciting. We're right at the cuff right now, and we're really excited. So
Glad you could join us. I'm going to say, I think at the last time when Olaf was able to make it to one of our sessions, one of the most gratifying experiences I had was visiting your shop there, the prototype garage, is it? Prototype Labs? But anyway, and
Prototype Garage. Yep.
Prototype Garage, and the stunning stuff that's happening there, and just knowing that it was imminent that the sport would come into production. I have a bias because you're like the Minnesota Twins. You're my home team for solar cooking, being right here in the Twin Cities. So, boy, am I rooting for you.
Yeah.
And and it's of course it's one of our go-to cookers for anytime we want to bake in volumes. 2 or 3 loaves of banana bread at a time, usually if we have guests and so forth. So, and
Yeah.
for anyone that has not seen it yet, Mike and Martha graciously gave Joe and me a couple hours of talking about the evolution of the design, going back to the sun stove in South Africa and the solar box cookers internationals cardboard model and all the choices they made through the years, and talk about with each step. Yeah, go ahead.
And what's so great about that too is the fact that they've kept every one that they have built from the beginning. So once we're hoping to get a warehouse just for it one day, and we're going to set them all up so people can see how it started to the point of where it progressed to now. So it's so cool that they kept them all. So
yeah, I think we were able to do a little over an hour with them, edited, taking out glitches and pauses and all that kind of stuff. That's on my channel. So YouTube at Solar Cooking Museum. Look up the ports. Just put in port. I think that'll bring up their video. Anyway, and a very
awesome.
incredible history back there. So. Well, next on my screen, Dave Chalker has rejoined us, coming back from retirement, at least for visiting us. And you are, yeah, on mute there. There we go. You're still muted. Here, I'm going to do an ask to unmute thing. Maybe that'll do it. It's
Luther, when you said ask to unmute, the unmute did go off. Maybe you both hit it
oh
nearly
shoot.
simultaneously.
Okay. I'm going to hit the ask to unmute thing, and that'll probably show that up on your screen there, Dave. Just a second. There we go. See if that does it. No, still muted. Well, I'll turn it over to Kurt, who's next on the screen. Then we'll come back to David.
Well, hello, everyone. Kurt Neubek from Houston, Texas. You can see it's a beautiful blue sky day today. I'm not a manufacturer. I'm an full-time architect by day. In fact, I got to fly to Phoenix tomorrow for work. But in between, I like to do solar cooking testing, and you happen to catch me outside doing a bunch of box cooker tests. I have 4 today. The test is no reflectors, but varying insulation. So this box cooker is no insulation. This one has 2 inches of insulation. See the pyranometer on there? This has 2 inches of insulation plus a radiant barrier. And then this one is 4 inches of insulation. So I did a short test last week and didn't have much difference, actually. I was really surprised between the 3 insulated ones. But today I got an earlier start, and I have I have little wireless thermometers in there, which are really nice because they measure both the water temperature at the bottom and the ambient temperature at the top of the probe, so the air temperature in the box. And so it makes it super easy, no wires or so anyway, so that's what I'm doing today. And again, I'm not a manufacturer, but thanks for the invitation, Luther. Happy to be online with so many familiar faces. And I own almost all of you who make cookers. I own at least one. So thanks. That's it for me.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Kurt. And yeah, Kurt is one of 2 or 3 other people they're catching up to me with my collection. Maybe you got a little ways to go, but what I invited Kurt because his knowledge of how to test things so you actually get meaningful results based on the materials that you might choose to put together a cooker. I just found it invaluable, and he's one of only, I think you might be the only one who's done the hat trick with the being 3 episodes on my channel, because every time I connect with him, he's doing yet another test and putting together. And now he's got a way to test with just one variable for 4 different cookers is at a time, or material. This is the testing station. So I think that's really going to be invaluable for everyone to check out his results as he puts them through. And I think you're set up for presenting at Console Foods in Marseille, correct? You've submitted.
Correct.
Yes.
That's right.
Plug for Console Foods, by the way, consolefood.org, I think it is. May 5th, 6th, and 7th in just coming up soon. Conference. I will definitely be there. It's such an invigorating experience to see so many other solar cooks with a lot of experience and their learnings. Alan has put in, and I don't know how many of the rest of you have put in. I think Sharon, you usually are there, right? Janie's going to be here.
I haven't made any plans this year.
Send Natalie.
Oh, she would love it. Send her and Wade.
Sure. Well, next in line, I see Sophie, I believe Solar Household Energy Inc. Sophie, if you're available.
Hi, Luther and everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Not now.
Yes, you're good, Sophie.
I can't hear.
Connected to SolCook's.
Must have oh, she's trying another channel or another we've all been there.
Luther, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Dave. I think I got the sound unmuted.
Okay, Sophie, we'll let Dave go and then we'll have you. And then we'll only have one left, I think, of that. So Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, as everybody knows, I'm retired and I'm out of the solar cooking industry, but I kind of started early back in 2004. So I think I know almost everyone on this call. I'm doing a lot of thinking in retirement about my business plan. And I think I had a pretty solid business plan, but now that I look in hindsight, it actually I think it had a weakness. And my business plan really was never to be big. It was to develop a unique product, bring it to market, give it some pedigree. We had it tested by Solar Cookers International, which, a third party that recognized it as a top quality cooker. Took it to some international demonstrations, gave it 10 years worth of consumer hands-on use. And that kind of was going to be my launch, was that it was a well-recognized, well-established product on the market. And then hopefully I could find somebody that would be bigger, had the financing, had the connections, had the retail support that could bring it to the mass market. And so that kind of was my business plan all along, not for me to be big, but to make my product available so others could succeed with it. But in the end, I couldn't make that step. I couldn't find a business that would take it over. Even though my product quality was good, they understood the product. My sales were so small that they perceived that as a risk that they just didn't want to take. Had my sales, I think, been six figures instead of 5, it may have made a difference. But 10 years and 20 years of in the market, the solar cooking market just did not impress bigger companies that are used to 7 and 8 figures product launches. So although I thought I had a pretty solid business plan, in the scheme of things, I was a very small minnow in the ocean. And I wasn't able to make the transition. I'm at a point in my life, I had other things to do that I gave more value to. So I closed the company at the end of 2003, and I'm enjoying my retirement. So I for those that are struggling, the cause is good. I've always believed in solar cooking. I've always believed the positive things about solar cooking. And the dream, I think, of all of us has always been, can it be will the mainstream get excited about solar cooking? And for my part of it, All the users that I sold to, all the people that I sold to over the years, the colleges, the universities, they did get excited about it. But in the business community, it's a whole different world. And unfortunately, I couldn't tap that shell. I couldn't crack that shell.
Well, thanks. I got to say, the one big lesson I learned from David Chalker was hybrid. If you can think of making your cooker into a hybrid, I've had that in my brain ever since Console Foods in Faro 2020. Can you do it with a panel cooker? Can you do it with a parabolic? And there are some that have done that. Box cookers are probably the biggest no-brainer because you can fit that heating element in there to make it an alternative to plug it in and so forth. But there are ways. I'll just mention one. Clement Musonda, I think he's in Zambia, has a Fresnel lens cooker that it bounces off a mirror up into a pan, and then when the sun goes away, he can slide the pan over to an alcohol burner that he just has installed on the side. So it's become a dual use, and uh, it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid, so you can cook whether there's sun or not. Cookers like the Sun Oven Villager, which is meant to cook 30, 40 loaves of bread at a time, that has a tube in the middle that is set up to put a gas, just like a barbecue, a wand that goes in there and heats it up. So anyway, just food for thought as we go forward. And so now we'll go back to Sophie, if we can connect you again. Sorry about that. We were having trouble with Dave, so I wanted to make sure we got him before things went kaflooey with this connection. So Sophie.
Hi. Right. No, sorry I had technical difficulties with the webcam, which wasn't turned on, so I had to sign in all over again. Um, yeah, it's good to see many of you. I've heard about a lot of you, and thank you, Luther, for organizing these chats so we can all get to know each other. So I'm Sophie Lyman. Been with Solar Household Energy based in Washington, D.C. for almost 15 years of its 25-year history. We are not a solar cooker manufacturer. We did help design the hot pot some 20 years ago, but it's being manufactured and sold by another company in Mexico. We're, ecumenical about solar cookers. We just try to use the solar cooker that's the most suitable for local conditions. Recently, we've been using the Haines solar cookers a lot, and we've been working very closely with Roger Haines and like giving him feedback from the ground on how to improve his solar cookers. So yeah, but we've used the Soul Source, we've used the SK14, we've used the Sun Oven in Haiti and DR. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't actually have a lot to contribute regarding like distribution barriers in terms of getting the cookers to where they need to be, transportation, shipment, and all that. Usually, our partners such as UNHCR or the Nature Conservancy and other partners we've partnered with take care of that end of things. That's really the easiest way to do it because they have the history, the experience to do that. I have worked a little bit with Roger in getting his hand solar cookers to our small projects in Mexico, and we've advised him and contributed a bit of money to some of his East Africa projects. But yeah, I'm here to listen mainly.
Sure, and I know that you Solar Household Energy for several years put together analysis of adoption of going back to where you were putting out the hot pot and seeing how many were still in use. I'm not aware that too many cooker makers actually set that up as just a standard operating procedure to go back and see where the cookers are still being used. And one of the things I hope to present on at Console Foods is what's the secret sauce? Because too often I hear from people saying, well, they went back and they'd given 100 cookers and only 5 maybe were still being used or none. It was fairly depressing. And of course, they were upset because they put a lot of work into it. On the other hand, like your organization and Solar Oven Partners, which do the follow up to find out these things, they've found pretty good adoption because you're back there and you're making sure people are up to speed and you have a local partner. Um, so I guess maybe I should have reworded the title of this, obstacles, but also, the means to where you never had an obstacle. If you found a partner there, then some of those obstacles between here and there are eliminated. So, but that's the kind of stuff we can expand on as we proceed with these. I see Jim LaJoy is there, and he being the last one on my screen. And I should mention, only a handful sent me a couple thoughts on obstacles, but Jim summarized a lot of his history with his work in developing his cooker and promoting it. And so I've asked him to elaborate on that. So it's fitting that he's the last in line here, so we can kind of turn the floor over to him, and not just an introduction, if you're ready for that, Jim, to speak extempore about your experience.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, good, good. Well, as I mentioned in my remarks to you, Luther, what I have found, and the only thing I've found that's been successful, is to be in country and have the people in country working with you. I've read some of the reports that come out from, which you mentioned earlier, about groups that will send cookers and do some training and then leave, come back however many months or years later and find out that the solar cooking had a failure to thrive incident, and they could not, the cookers weren't around anymore. They weren't being adopted. So I got really lucky with a group in South Africa who actually started building the all-season solar cooker from plans that had been distributed in 1996 via the internet. And they just kind of cold email to me and showed me a couple that they had built. I made some suggestions to them. They built a couple more. They continued, they made some videos. They showed initiative, they showed interest, they showed enthusiasm. And now they are building the cooker in country, and they are distributing it and selling it in country. And they're not only doing it in South Africa, but they're reaching out to some of the neighboring countries also and getting it to grow. And the criteria is can't say it was a success or not, but the criteria that we're using is that it has to be built locally, period. It has to provide local jobs, and you have to follow up on what you do. So what I've asked Fabi Antonio to do, who leads the group down there, is to set up, in addition to the regular training, to identify leaders in the areas where it's going and require, not ask, but require that they send a report on a regular basis talking about their activities and what they've done. Because I think that consistent follow-up, as was mentioned by others, training, follow-up. I think that's kind of the way to go. And I think the outside group model, just that hasn't worked for me because I haven't found an outside group that wanted to support me. But it's an example. My brother-in-law is a missionary, and he went to Russia right after the Soviet Union collapsed. And his host there had seen many missionaries, and they said, "When are you going home?" He says, "I'm not going home." And he took his whole family, and they stayed for 7 years. And that makes a big difference, I think, in finding the acceptance for what you've got to say or acceptance for your project. So my advice to anyone reaching out to that area would be to find a strong local leader and get a program established in country. And I think that just sending stuff, I'm just not sure if that works or not. So that's my input. Build it in country, use locals to build it, make it freestanding where it's self-sustaining, and then to follow up, do teaching, do follow-up, do more follow-up, and then follow up on your follow-up to make sure that the fire is catching. So end of rant. So
Luther, can I jump in here and ask a question?
Oh, yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, Jim, the mantra I hear over and over, and that I'm frustrated when I get messages from Africa or wherever saying, can you send us a couple solar cookers? We want to start solar cooking.
Mhm.
And I always think, can we do, sending them is sending one or two certainly is not a solution. But the question is, can you make them locally? And you say the secret is making them locally. Are they making your cookers locally out of what?
Well, the first cookers that they made were made from local materials,
Like
and
what materials?
they were
Cardboard?
they were using coroplast, as I do, and they were using reflective material from the dump. Um, reflective bags, cereal bags, that kind of stuff. And what I had was surplus materials, the good stuff that you know what I use. And I
Yeah.
sent that, and then they started building uh, out of that, which they're real happy with. But I think once they get some money coming in, they'll be able to locate better materials than things from the. I don't like using scraps; they just don't work out very well. They're not they're not as reflective as we think that they are, and they're working now at sourcing high quality mylar type of materials to do their cookers. So I'm continuing to supply that to the extent that I can because it's all scraps and surplus to me. I buy my material in a 54-inch wide roll, and I can only use 48-inch wide. So every roll I get a 6-inch piece that I have to do something with, and it weighs a lot too. So actually today, sailing today from Long Beach is another crate full of those 6-inch rolls headed for Port Elizabeth. So they've just taken out space for me. I actually tried selling them in the United States. I tried giving them away to
I
teach
got one.
stuff like, yeah, there you go. And Sharon, I might save another one for you. And
Yeah.
I couldn't. So for me, it's been a real opportunity to get that stuff out. Now, that being said, I think if you can do a combination of local materials and materials that may need to be shipped in temporarily to get people established, but the goal again is to have it built there using local labor and having the immediate follow up right there. I mean, these people were a phone call away from the people that they help. They're, that's what I think. Just the more you are in country on a permanent basis, I think the more success you're going to have. So,
Sure. If it's not too big of a change of gears, in your note you mentioned doing a background check, getting to know the people you're going to work with, and then the government. And you said even on government officials, do you have any salacious stories to share about that?
no, Roger, Roger and I got the same email, but he's smart enough to know that it wasn't good. And this guy was Roger, the Ministry of Interior or Ministry of something. And they wanted to buy my cookers. They were offering me $1.2 million. And I was ramping up out here, talking to the die makers and the suppliers and everything. And kind of embarrassing because in a very short period of time, I called my friend Roger and I said, Roger, did you get an email? He says, it's a scam, just like that.
It's good to know someone who used to be in the pretty deep into the criminal justice system, right? As an employee, not behind the.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, they had me like a fish on a hook, just flopping around and doing everything I could to help out. I was so stoked. I didn't want to sell cookers. I just wanted them to get cookers. But they said, no, 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 we want to buy them and we'll send you advance money as soon as we know your bank account number. And,
Oh,
the standard stuff. And after I called them on it, they made a couple other attempts, but then they shut up. But yeah, there's some operators out there. And I was embarrassed. And I really thank Roger for pointing me in the right direction. And then I
I know.
found out later. Yeah, then I found out that later that Roger sold $1.2 million to him. So,
Right. Well,
just kidding.
and yeah, no, I definitely have heard very similar stories from others that I've talked to over the years. So it's just buyer beware, seller beware. I guess in this one, let's find the
Uh-huh.
Latin for that. What's Latin for seller beware? I'm trying to think if there's anything else in here.
Can I,
Oh,
Luther,
go
can
ahead.
I?
Yes, Janie,
Yeah.
please. Yes.
Okay. So I just want to confirm what Jim is saying. In 1998, when we started manufacturing the Solar Chef, we were invited into Nigeria, which I had vetted them completely because Nigeria is the source of every scam everywhere. But we actually were, they paid for three of us to take a Solar Chef to Nigeria, and it was really quite a trip. And the person that invited us was they called him the president maker because he had such influence. We met with the ministry of a woman, ministry of the women's part, and we were even on TV with, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on. And his design was exactly what you were saying. He wanted to bring the Solar Chef there, and Sam's vision has always been to manufacture it in the country. But his design was to manufacture it in Abuja or wherever, that's the capital. And then he would go out, and he divided the country into 6 regions. And those 6 regions, he would identify someone in the middle of the region, basically. And we would manufacture, and then we would go to them in each 6 regions and train them on how to work it, how to do it, how to train people. Then they would go out, the native people would go out into their own regions and teach the people, so that we never had we were not the connection to we were not the connection to the people, because the idea is, if you impose something on them, then they're not going to know how to do it. And so his design was really really a great design. And so we left there without a contract, but the next 2 months the government changed, and in Nigeria and things like that. But we were right up there. We could have, but that was exactly the design, coming from the ministry of Nigeria. So I just
sure. I can vouch for the change in government, having worked for the city of Minneapolis. And when a change of mayor means a change of chief of police, a change of the public works. They throw out the recycling program. They start something else. They want to do their own thing. And that's on more or less on a legit level. But anyway, always be ready for the changes. And that's where working with the local people that are established, that aren't beholden to whatever, the military or the next election or what have you. That works. Also, just to affirm, Joe, my wife Joe's father, missionary for 40 plus years in Peru, a lot of the rest of Latin America, Ghana for a year or two, and Kazakhstan for 5, 6, 7 years. And they had the same experience where people would ask him, how, when are you going back? You're going to be here for a year like the last guy. And his intent was to stay there as long as possible. He was part of a synod that had a little bit of say in where he went, but he was able to stay as long as he wanted in Peru and Kazakhstan in particular, where they made tracks because the longevity and being able to develop relationships. You can't do that in a few weeks, or so. I think that's critical. I think that's critical in any kind of outreach effort. Any other thoughts to share?
Could I share some
Yes,
thoughts?
sure.
So let's see. On the idea that solar cookers should be made locally, I think there are definitely some benefits, which he pointed out. I think for the Haines solar cooker, I think it's been working really well just to ship them in, because they're so light and shipping them is so cheap. Now, of course, that was a different story for the parabolics. For the sole source, it was already 400 to begin with, and then you paid another 200 for shipping. And I know that when we shipped an SK14, well, to Haiti, the organization that was making them, I'm sorry, I forgot their name, EG Solar, they actually did not ship them anymore. There was only an exception that they made for us to give us a sample, but the idea was always just, this is a sample for you to try out and then see how it works, see if you like it, and then we'll send you instructions on how to make them locally. So I think it depends on the solar cooker. And even in Mexico, we tried so long to find a local pot. We tried dozens of pots. I did so much research on pots. I'm not a pot. Well, I was a pot expert at one point. Forgotten a lot of it. But sometimes, you just can't find the right pots locally. I mean, you can find something, but your performance might be, 20% lower. And it's really, and half the pots that you find locally come from China anyways. So as well as all the reflective materials. I think China makes basically all the reflective materials. So I think, but to his point, I think it is important to involve people locally and pay them, maybe if not to manufacture them, then to train others and to sell them and to build a social enterprise. And that's what we did in Mexico. And that's really important for getting to the last mile, which I guess kind of builds into this, transportation system. Because, okay, getting into the country is one thing. You gotta get through shipping and import taxes and being held up at, the port for weeks until you pay the bribe or whatever. But then the rest of the battle is getting them to these small villages and renting out trucks to do that. And it just ends up costing a fortune. So yeah, that is a huge challenge. And the way we did it in Mexico is we took like 5 women, trained them to be community ambassadors, and just to basically teach it how to use them and sell them and evaluate their neighbors' usage. So it's worked a little bit, but it's also had some downfalls. They want to be paid a regular salary, even if they don't sell anything. So, which we said no. So then some of them just stopped selling. It's definitely a challenge, but I do think that with cookers like the Haines, which are light and easy to use, it makes sense to ship them. It doesn't necessarily have to be built locally. And I know there's also people who think that, oh, okay, we need to make them out of local baskets and stuff. And the cost of manufacturing locally, it can be more expensive than, making it in China with the right tools and stuff. And especially the cost of organizing local manufacturing is huge. So that's one of the big lessons I've learned is, okay, so you have a cooker that costs a little bit of money, but the real money in each project is what you have to pay the staff to train others and organize, local manufacturing and all that other stuff. So you're better off with a cooker that costs slightly more money, but is very easy to set up and use and ship with low training costs, low maintenance costs for an overall lower project budget. So that's why I love Roger's Haines Pop Open, which I was like, get rid of the snaps and everything else. It needs to be as easy as possible, because you save so much money in training, far more than what little money you save in the cost of the cooker itself. So, sorry, that was a little rambly, but just thought I would add my thoughts.
No, that's good stuff. In fact, the general message is do your homework. Find out, can you get stuff locally and get the local wages? How much is that going to cost you? I'm reminded of Pat McCardle talking about, she wasn't making cookers, but she was with the State Department in Afghanistan. And she tells the story of where she's trying to demonstrate a cooker and she's got one. I don't remember which one it was, but everyone loved it, but they said, well, how are we going to make it? And she said, well, you need reflective material, you need whatever. It could be cardboard, it could be plywood. And the men standing around silent up to that point said, well, we've got reflective stuff. And they pulled out all their cigarette packs, and the liners to their cigarette packs was that little aluminized paper. And they were able to make a couple of cookers of that. That's obviously just a very quick, only one-time way to get something started. You can't count on that. But anyway, bottom line, do your homework, find out what is available, and find out if people are willing to chase down the local labor or churches or schools that can help out with stuff. Interesting story from David Wareham, who's the son of Richard Wareham, who did the sun stove operation in South Africa for a couple decades before he passed away. And David took it from there, and he said that what was the deal? Oh, that some of them were made in prisons. I think it was his. No, it wasn't him. It was a guy in Bolivia. The Bolivia. I forget the name of the organization. I'll try to find it from the interview. But he said they had prisoners make them, and it was a very useful thing. The prisons there are a little different here. Probably free labor. That's just another thought. Um, Anything else? This is all very good stuff. A lot of it kind of affirms what I've heard from dozens of others, but also some new information, and it's going to be valuable to share with
Yeah.
other makers.
Luther,
Yes.
this is Dave.
Yeah.
I just want to share a story that, you know, I know we're all small. We all have our budgets, and not a lot of times our budgets allow us to travel or go to conferences. But I was lucky enough to go to the Solar Cookers International conference in California. It was 2017 or 18, and at that conference I met Camille. I think he's from Kenya, and so I had conversations with him. And years later, he contacted me, and he was looking for some financial assistance. He was still making cookers, with a hand screwdriver and a hand drill, and he wanted to upgrade, and he needed some money. It wasn't a lot of money, but to him it was a lot of money. It wasn't a lot of money to me. So I Western Unioned him what he wanted, and he sent me a picture of the electric drill that he bought, and he was able to make more solar cookers locally just because he had better tools. So I wasn't able to help him every time he needed financial support, but I did get him that far. And he's still in business making cookers and doing demonstrations and promoting his product. Makes a wooden box cooker. But had I not gone to California to that meeting, I would have not made that network connection. So it's important that you try to make as many connections as you can throughout the world, because you never know that when you can add knowledge or even a little financial help to some of these people that also have the solar passion and trying to do something in country. In the United States, we all like to be exporters. We all wish somebody would buy our product and we could ship them around the world. But, domestic production is important too. And if you can help and you trust that person, then by all means, give it a try if you can.
Sidebar on the tools. My father-in-law, when he was in Kazakhstan, he visited one of their mission congregation members who really was proud of the woodwork that he did, and he showed his shop, and he had the handsaw. He didn't have any electric tools, and so Ted had a DeWalt saw sent to him, and he handed it to him, and the guy saw how much more he could get done on the basic cuts, not the real fine carving and everything. And he said he just wept. He just wept because he had never had that opportunity and how much more work he could get done and so forth. So you never know what might just tip the scale that way. I remember what the story with Dave Wareham was, and I wanted to share it because it's about networking where you can find more than just one resource to help distribute cookers or even a market. In South Africa, the people that worked for the Sappi Paper Company, which basically managed the forest to be able to produce wood pulp for paper, approached him because their employees were pilfering whole truckloads of wood for cooking. And they heard that he had a solar cooker and would that help? And so he showed him the cooker, and they ordered cookers enough of the Sun stove for each of their employees. And two problems solved right there. You know, they're managing a forest as well as they could, but they're losing that revenue from being able to use the wood that was being stolen by their own employees, and they didn't want to sack all these people. So it was an interesting sidebar that helped him expand his market for one, and have a partner that could demonstrate, hey, it's more than just getting to local villages and doing demonstrations, but go to whole companies that might be able to use them. So wanted to share that one. Anything else?
Yeah, I had a thing about every time I'm on the Solar Cookers World Network and somebody says, send us a solar cooker. What I do is I send them to the wiki, to look at plans, and then I tell them, well, all of us will help you with making it. And I know we've had success with some people actually doing that in country. And I think that, as a forum, that the Solar Cookers World Network is a really good way to reach out to people who we may never see them in person, or they'll never see us, but yet we can train them through the wikia and the knowledge that we all have. And so since I don't see myself being a world traveler, I see that as the way to reach out and bring more people in. And then now and then we'll find the success.
Absolutely. And as far as the wiki goes, I'll tell you, I know I've said this in previous forums. I think the last one where we met, do not tell everyone you know that wants to learn about solar cooking. Don't use Google, okay? Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, you could find real meaningful results at the top. Not anymore. Not anymore. Google, something has just gone terribly wrong. Send them just to the wiki. Have them bookmark the wiki. Everything is there. I mean, I think Paul, I think can affirm that I have yet to be stumped. I think in the last year or two. I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I found out about a cooker that wasn't there, and I interviewed the guy with a Zoom, and then right away, Tom or Paul posted on the wiki. So that is the most up-to-date, current archive of all the history, all the plans. Don't Google solar cooking or solar cookers. Just send people to the wiki, and send them the link. Like if specifically they want to talk about panel cookers, there's a way to send a direct link to the thing with the panel cooker plans and so forth. But Jim,
If I can add up a closing comment, an observation. All the material that comes to the United States to build solar cookers, I'm thinking it comes from China. Okay. There's a cost to import that. It's a cost to manufacture here. If that same money, you can build more cookers in country if you don't bring the material to the United States first. My contact in South Africa pays half the price that I do for Coroplast. Half. All right. And I get a pretty darn good price on my Coroplast. I'm just shocked. Okay. So why would the point being, I really think if we have funds to spend, if we can get a good partner in country to train them and help them and move them along and get a program of manufacturers set up there to create jobs, we're going to be much better off than having something shipped around the world to us to do something with it and then ship it back around the world with all those extra expenses. So, and then tools is another thing. My last shipment to South Africa included a laminating machine. So that's going to advance them. And those are pretty simple. They're very inexpensive, a few $100s, and to help them with the manufacture. But I'm just convinced that the less this stuff has to travel and the more we explore the costs in other markets for getting this stuff done, we're going to spend our dollars better. So that's it. So.
oh no, good point. In fact, if any of you have studied the lean model of manufacturing, they talk about emphasizing find your waste where you're wasting motion, wasting system time, wasting whatever. And one of the biggest wastes is they just call it transportation, moving your stuff from one place to another when it should be where it ends up as soon as possible through other means. So eliminate that waste. I see Sophie has your hand up.
Hi.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree with, I'm sorry, what's your name? Who just spoke?
Jim.
Jim was, okay, sorry. No, I agree. And with the Haines too, I think Roger has been sending materials to assemble them locally. And, it's just the final touches. But like, since it's such a simple model, it's just like he sends the reflective material and they do a few things to put it together. Anyhow, yes, I wanted to put in a final note. So explaining that, since we're ecumenical about solar cooking, if you want to partner with us, send us one of your solar cookers. We'll be happy to display it at educational events that we do in Washington, D.C., in the Washington, D.C. area. I could use a new solar oven of some kind myself. I am, if anybody wants to send me one, I would love to have one. The more the merrier, all the board members. I think a lot of them have their own solar cookers, but the other thing is that the really limiting factor for solar household energy right now is we're very small nonprofit. The board members are all volunteers. They take care of different aspects of the NGO. Richard is the financial administrator. I've been doing most of the project management, like with Lorena in Mexico. She's our local field project manager and the evaluations and so forth. But I can only offer like 10 hours a week of my time, and to embark on much larger projects, we would need just more help. So, we've put out ads from time to time, seeing if we could get really low paid project managers or volunteers to do this kind of thing, just to put in more hours to embark on larger projects, which is really, I think, the most effective way to distribute solar cookers. Because in terms of project management, whether you're managing a 10 solar cooker project or a 100 solar cooker project, it almost takes them the same amount of time. But obviously the 5% of 100 per solar cooking project, when we do a project budget, can pay for your time, and a 10 solar cooker project does not. Which is why we're mostly volunteer run. So yeah, I'm putting the word out there. If you guys want to be our new project manager, help in that, or know anybody who could help in that capacity, or if you want to talk with us about building a proposal to promote or introduce your solar cooker in new areas, then, I think we're a good partner to have. And because we have that history, we have a history of respectable partners, UNHCR and so forth. We've got a lot of people coming to our website saying, hey, I wanted you to do solar cookers in my community. And we don't have the money to do it. We can't send them solar cookers, but what we can do is work together to develop a proposal and then apply to various foundations and other stuff and see if we get lucky. Okay.
Yeah. And showing other cookers, putting in a plug for Jim LaJoy a couple days ago, Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, video of him presenting more than just his cooker and being able to. And the great thing about that is you can talk about all aspects. Even with your own cooker, you can probably cover it all, but it's just great for people to see. There's such a variety. They have their strengths. They have their the expenses. Sometimes just people want to know how much does it cost. Being able to answer those questions, it's so valuable because people build trust in the whole idea that this is actually a thing. It's not just a hot dog cooker from fifth grade. I
Right.
hate to do that because that has its value. But anyway, anything else before I just have a couple closing thoughts?
No.
Are we
I don't know if you can. Hello?
okay? Well, the next steps, Monday night my time, 8 p.m. is the next session. I set up two times so that uh, if any of you have been to the Console Food Conference and people in India say, well, they always have to get up. They don't mind getting up at 3 in the morning when they know it's at 3 in the afternoon in the States or whatever. And I tell them they should be able to have a good night's rest before they visit. They get online. Let's cut them some a break and let them present as well. But so that's why the second time also just to have yet another opportunity. And as you notice, this is being recorded. It is going to be unlisted on my channel, so it can't be found by anyone else. but you can share the link with other makers or your teams, whoever would want to participate and have something to say. As far as a follow-up on this topic, I think after Monday, probably both sessions will have covered enough for people to get the wheels spinning for thought over the topic. And maybe people could be invited to share their extra comments if they can't make it to either sessions on the YouTube video comment section. If that makes sense, I think that'll work, and that's what I can do. Um, any last things? I think that's about. Oh, the other thing is, Jim, what you sent me. Did you? I can forward that to everyone who's attended thus far, or even the next bunch when we have the next session. If you're okay with that.
Yeah, I am. I'm fine with that.
Great.
And I have a quick question.
Sure.
I was on eBay last night, and there's a thing called the Sun Diner, which is a really
Oh,
vintage solar cooker for
yes.
sale. I don't know who's bidding on it because I don't want to. If one of you guys is trying to get it, want to have.
No, and I'm not working on it.
I
I was,
have two because I'm a crazy collector, and I try to get two of everything in case one of them goes bad or isn't that
uh,
great. And the first one I got, the reflectors are all modeled, and so I got
uh,
a second one that was in much better shape. So I do not need another one. And I
okay.
did use the first one I got with even with the bad reflectors, it reached 300 Fahrenheit, 150
Uh,
Celsius, with a pretty quick time because it's a very small cooking space. I'm convinced it was designed to just put TV dinners into because it's just such a small cooking space.
that
But
was the era. That was the era of TV dinners. So
absolutely. Oh, I remember them. Yeah. I think they phased out just as I got to college, uh,
yeah.
in the
All right.
80s.
I just want to see if anybody from this group was trying to buy it.
Sure.
I just didn't want to outbid you. I'm not going to buy it now that I know that Luther has one already. So, all right. Thanks,
Well, and
Luther.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, and on that note, if you ever run into a cooker that you've never seen before, let me know. I probably will have it. I've had an eBay alert thing for 5 years now, where any variation on solar cooker pops up, and I think probably 15 or 20 out of my 90 I got because all of a sudden one popped up. I'd never heard of it before, and I have it in my collection. So, and if I've used it, I can tell you, hey, did it work? Was it a bust? So you can know whether it's worth adding to your displays and so forth. Um,
Luther,
yes,
Luther. Yeah, this is Dave again. I just wanted to throw it out to the group. I'm not making my hybrid oven anymore, but if anybody has questions that they may want to do something with their product on a hybrid level, just email me and we start a collaboration. I'm always have lots of ideas and maybe I can help move your project along if you want to go in that direction. I'm not so much into solar onlys. My interest has always been the hybrid part, but I'm throwing it out there that if anybody wants to go in that direction, just please email me and I'll pass on what I learned over the 20 years, all the trials and tribulations that I had while I was in business, and maybe help you bring your idea forward. So I'm just throwing it out there that I'm open to that.
sure. That's so helpful. And by the way, Dave I visited him twice to talk about his cooker and just in general the philosophy behind what he had going for marketing it, for getting it out there, and the customer service part from the first visit. Well, both visits, just being able to listen to people who use the cookers and revise as needed. It's Sophie mentioning the with Roger and the Haines and being able to affirm the need for just that one little extra step of simplicity to make it easier for people to use. I mean, that's a real partnership effort. So look on my channel. You can search for videos. Just put Dave's name in there, David Chalker, and you'll see both of them. The last one was, when was I out there? Last year in February? I think it was in the winter. wasn't I?
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, may have been. Yeah.
I'd come up from the Villager Production Center in North Carolina. Um, for those that are not aware, the Son of a Villager is back in production. And I joked with Trip Kretz, who's running the operations. He should call it the Son of an Hummer because it's built like a tank. And it's almost priced accordingly. It's upwards to almost 40K now, but it's got a trailer that will survive a tornado. It's really over the top. I mean, it will last forever. But anyway, I visited him in North Carolina in the winter too, on the kind of a little quick sweep on the East Coast and so forth. All right. Any last words from anyone else?
Yes, Rui Luther, if I can say something.
Yes.
Okay, this is Sabas again. I want to talk first about the hybrid. We are developing one hybrid that we can use with our solar oven using a resistance only 300 watts, working with 24 volts, very safe, and it works perfectly, cooks at the same time as an ordinary oven with 3,000 watts, which is amazing if you think about the loss of energy we are doing in every day. And also something about the local assembly. We are trying to develop an assembly line in Senegal. And in my last trip there, I found that they are really willing to learn. People there are very skilled, and it's amazing. The only problem is, as I said before, the raw materials, we have to maybe cut them at first in pieces in Cyprus, and then ship the parts there for the assembly, because we have in our model we have 6 proprietary molds for aluminum extrusions. It's not easy to make for every country the shipment of big extrusion profiles, but that's not the main problem for us. Mainly, I will give you an example. If you want to export in next to us in Egypt, which is only 400 kilometers, the ship has to go to Rotterdam and then come back again to Egypt. This is, for me, unthinkable. I don't know how to solve this. We discussed with our government because they talk each other, but we didn't find yet any answer. But anyway, I believe that by setting up assembly lines in at least 10 different strategically chosen countries, we can solve the problem of quality and cost. And it's not necessary from China. I can tell you most of our parts we import from Germany, and it's cheaper than in China. I can say that, really. For the production of our aluminum, for our tube, we use the internal, it's an aluminum tube that is covered with stainless steel inside, and it's covered by with an absorption film of aluminum. We import from Germany, and also the reflector is from Germany, and it's very good price. Now, for the big model, the XXL, we use glass mirror, which is not very expensive. It's only 8 euros square meter. It's nothing. The only question is to cut it. And we have a CNC machine that we set up to cut the mirrors in shape, because to cover the XXL, we just cut them in different sizes in rectangular. But for the satellite dish, we have to cut them in, how do you say that, in shape, in different shape that is not rectangular anyway. And this is difficult to cut by hand. If you want to make the precision, but we found out that machine is not so expensive. It's just you spend once the cost of a machine, and then you have it for the production. I mean, I don't see any big problem for assembly lines locally. And last thing, I believe, and we discussed this in Senegal, the big model, the XXL, that can cook for almost 40 people, they can use it in community cooking. That also creates a relation between the people. They come together, they cook together, and it costs nothing. So that was my last.
Sure.
And if you see Mr. Alan Bigelow, give him my greetings, please. Thank you.
Sure. Paul will take care of that. Pass on greetings to Alan Bigelow. And what that brings up is for future topics, of course, one of them will be, as I've already sent out, the obstacles to adoption. I mean, we've had this has been a great discussion about how do we get cookers there. And we've touched on, but I think it'd be worth a separate session simply on sourcing materials. How is everyone finding the materials they want and sharing the prices, sharing the contacts, whatever, because that's when we make progress is people that have been banging their head on the wall and paying way more, and they know they're paying more, but they don't know any other source. Being able to share that can really help the maker community at large. So if that makes sense, I mean, I'm just going to do it. I think after we talk about adoption, because that's near and dear to my heart, having talked to so many makers who maybe for every success they've had a failure, or if they're largely successful, they try to figure out why did it not work over in this little corner and so forth. And if it's a cultural thing, talk about that. We can talk about all sorts of things. Paul.
Yes, just a thought. After listening to all the stories today, it's been great. It seems like solar cooker distribution falls into two camps. Either it's sort of in an adoption introductory program within a country where you have to introduce the concept of solar cooking and tell them how this will help with deforestation and not having to look for firewood and help with their lifestyle. I posted something in the chat that there is a list on the wiki with a number of project evaluations that go way back of people going back and looking at introductory projects that they developed and what worked and what didn't work. Some of it was touched on today. You have to involve local trainers, local people willing to do the follow-up. But the other issue is distribution and development of selling cookers in more developed countries, and that being a different market.
You're frozen up, Paul.
More developed countries.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a different animal, depending on where you go. At the same time, I know for myself, trying to get people in Minnesota, which of course has its own challenges with our variety weather belt, but just in the States where we're spoiled with natural gas hookups everywhere. I think every park building in Minneapolis is hooked up with gas for cooking for their staff. I remember, how many remember rest areas? I think in the 70s, when my dad would drive us kids all over the West, rest areas had microwave ovens in them. Do you remember that? I mean, they must have had a fire or two to stop doing that, but it was, you could just get the vending machine, the hot dog, and put it into the microwave. I don't know. Anyway, very good points there. Anything else?
I've had a question for years because of all the big homeless problems. Has anybody had any success in teaching or distributing solar cookers in a homeless population?
I can share that Irene Purble up in, I don't know how to pronounce the name of the town in California, Mokalune Hills or something. It's in
Oh yeah,
northeast.
well, Irene, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And she tells a story in my visit with her from 2021, I think, that the Jackson, California Fire Department was concerned about homeless camps out in the brush and the high chaparral and of course their open fires potentially causing grass fires and with obviously the property damage and deaths and so they were able to distribute the cookets to all the homeless camps going through the fire department of Jackson, California. I asked her if she knew the contact there, and she said they had changed hands and turned it over to a nonprofit. And my voicemails to the Jackson Fire Department were not answered. I wanted to know more about that because one of my jobs with Minneapolis Police was to develop relationships with the homeless outreach folks and the service providers for the homeless. And we had a really, really good success with that. And by the time I was ready to retire, I'm kicking myself because that's exactly what we could have used even in homeless camps in Minneapolis, where we don't have the dry forests and fire bans and that kind of stuff, but we have had deaths at camps in homeless camps because of fires. One reason I got deep into it was because of the death of an individual who tried to cook in his tarp, and the tarp caught fire, and he burned to death from the fire in the tarp. So it's definitely something that should be um, explored and put into place. I am in contact with one of my main contacts from back then, Monica Nilsson, who's spoken to my class at Metro State about possibly making connections with the service providers. So if they have a Haines or two in their trunk, and as they get to camps, get people to use that instead of rolling a barrel out and starting to burn stuff in a barrel, which is not healthy. So good point. Very good point. Anything else? We're running on, I see 11:40 my time. I have a noon thing. I'm apparently the New Mexico Solar Energy Association wants me to join their board, and it's because I'm kind of a quarter owner in their villager for one, but I'm a life member with them because we're looking at in a year or two, Joe and I are considering relocating to the Albuquerque area. And I better show my face if they're actually going to do it. I don't know if they allow non-New Mexicans to join, but honorary New Mexican, I don't know. But they also are, they've been very proactive in promoting solar cooking. And um, my brother-in-law actually has their villager in their backyard in Albuquerque, which they check out for events and so forth. So I do have a finger in that pot, as it were. So that's my only time constraint. Otherwise, we've got about 10 minutes before I'm going to have to log out. Any last words for the good of the order? No? Oh, go ahead, Sophie.
Just about Sharon's question. There was this nonprofit called Food Not Bombs in Washington, D.C. They make vegetarian meals for the homeless. So I got together with them. I don't know how I got in contact with them or how this happened, but it was over 10 years ago. Basically, I took the Soul Source to some, public square in Washington, D.C., and all the homeless people lined up. Food Not Bombs organized it, and we solar cooked for a lot of homeless people.
Well, that's great. So, because it's like, I've been thinking of going. We have like Father Joe's here in San Diego and these different places, and actually offering a class to teach them how to make the Copenhagen because they can make it for $5, and not knowing if they would accept it or not. And so I've never really gone forward, but I guess, like you said, show up and the homeless will show up because
Well, I mean, they organized it. I just brought the solar cooker. I don't know how they did it, but
okay.
they brought the food to cook, and I think it wasn't just a solar cooker because they were feeding many people, but the solar cooker was there as part of other, gas stoves out in a cold DC morning, and somehow I don't know, the homeless population showed up because I don't know how they got through to them, but yeah. But I think
Well,
that's their mission. Food Not Bombs. They feed homeless people. So
Good point. And a group that needs reaching out to. And speaking of groups that have been reached out to, Roger, I can't remember the name of the organization that makes kind of an emergency pack for refugees where they have like a, I don't know, kind of a sleeping bag or maybe a tent and some food stuff and
Well, it's called Shelter Box.
shelter box. Yes. And I believe you have reached out to them. I sent them a note. I think I copied you on the note, and this is the roulette wheel we always spin when we go to an organization that maybe isn't directly cognizant of other things that really could be used. There's one I approached called oh shoot, it's a Fold Scope. They're a nonprofit that puts together a cardboard microscope that's fully clinically valid to use for the bare minimum for clinic stuff because it costs thousands of dollars to get a really official one for hospitals and clinics. But for remote areas, they could not get them, and this would help the local people that visit those areas to check their water. Is it filled with the germs, bacteria, and so forth? And I did not hear back, even after having one of their reps speak to my class at Metro State. I'm trying to, I'm trying to leverage, just a little tiny favor. Could you at least talk to me? It's really hard, but we'll keep plugging on that. Maybe Roger and Sharon and Jim, if we gang up on them, we can we can get one of your cookers into
start
their
our old
package.
club up again.
I'm not above a little bit of congenial browbeating, to get them to respond. Maybe we find everyone in their organization and do an email blast. Oh, anyway. So, okay, well, and everyone has shared their contact information in the chat. I think this session, I know I had set it up originally. I think it's saving all the chat messages as well as I had clicked on a box to have it transcribed. So I always find that helpful if I need to, quote, hey, here's a direct quote from Roger or from Sharon or Dave, to be able to share that with people, being able to just clip it without having to have to rely on the YouTube transcription, which is pretty good, but I think Zoom is actually very good. So this will be uploaded as soon as I can today, and then also Monday's session with the next group that logs in. Everyone is welcome to come back. More the merrier. Obviously, for those that will be on Monday that weren't here, we'll give them the first shot to talk about what they have going, and then we'll go around the room again. So. That's all I have. I mean, every time I click end meeting, I think, oh, I should have said this or that. I mean, I think we all run through that, and I'll share that by email if anything comes up. So, and Jim, thank you for letting me share that to the group. I ended up by default having a contact list of pretty much every cooker maker that I know that is on the wiki or that I found through other sources. And so I've become kind of a clearinghouse, and I don't mind that at all. I think the network building through sharing information is critical. So happy to fill that role. Well, not seeing any other hands up or not hearing any other thoughts. We'll let you all get back to your days. We are going to put on an extra layer because it's supposed to get down to, I think, 9 below Fahrenheit here. By the end of the day. Yeah, we're getting it's the, what do they call it? The polar vortex.
Express,
We get multiple vortices every year, and this is probably the first real serious one. So ready to do that. Okay.
And I'm whining about 40 degrees.
Oh, my heart goes out to you. Send your extra sweaters. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining in.
Bye.
And,
nice seeing everybody.
Yeah. And
Great,
again, if you
great
can,
meeting.
come again Monday if you have the time.
Okay.
Okay. Talk to you later.